Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Sangham saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi sangham saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi sangham saranang gacchāmi. Pānāti pātā vērmani sikkhapadang samādiyāmi. Adinnādāna vērmani sikkhapadang samādiyāmi. Kāmesu miccācārā vērmani sikkhapadang samādiyāmi. Musāvādā vērmani sikkhapadang samādiyāmi. Surāmera majjapamādātthāna vērmani sikkhapadang samādiyāmi. Sadhu, sadhu. Great. With that little bit of chanting, and we will begin with our guided meditation. You may close your eyes and begin to focus, placing your body in a comfortable meditation posture. Your shoulders relaxed. You begin to notice anywhere in your body that needs to be adjusted to properly position your body to a longer sitting. Allowing your muscles and cells, the bones to relax. Your head, your neck, your face, your shoulders, your chest, your stomach, your pelvic area, your spine, also your bottom muscles pressed against the chair, your thighs, your knees, shin bones, the ankles, the soles of your feet, and your toes. From the top of your head down to the soles of your feet, you are beginning to relax, making adjustments as necessary. Now you begin breathing in, breathing out through your nostrils. Aware that you breathe in and breathe out. You continue observing your breath to relax every corner of your body. Take time to slowly breathe in and breathe out. Again and out. Now you are mindful of each and every breath you are taking. Expand your awareness into the body as you breathe in and breathe out. Mindfully and aware of the body, breathe in and breathe out. Slowly and in such a way you relax this body entirely. Sometimes there's a chance where the body is beginning to take a long breath, but you are aware of it. Or a short breath. You apply full awareness as these activities happen. No matter how tired you are, your mind will begin to develop cultivate mindfulness factor of awakening. When you do this practice, mindfully you breathe in, mindfully you breathe out. The breath is happening now, not in the past, not in the future. They are happening now. Taking a long breath, you know you are taking a long breath. Taking a short breath, you know very well that you are taking a short breath. Same way, when you exhale, long or short, you know as they happen. No visualizing, but aware of your warmth and movements and the feelings involving your body as you breathe in and breathe out. As you expand your awareness Focus on your whole body and what happens with the body as you breathe in and out. Sensitive to the body, you breathe in, you breathe out. You notice your shoulders, their movement, your chest, some parts of your stomach, your abdomen area. There is movement, so you are sensitive to these movements. Stay central to this awareness, moving away from any pains or agitations or thoughts that may not be conducive to the peaceful goals of this guided meditation. Your shoulders, arms, head, neck, these things are perfectly aligned. One unit moving as the natural breath is happening now. Finally, you let go of the gross feeling of the breath and be with the subtle feeling of it, which means narrow down your focus to just letting the breath do the job as your awareness of the body is shifted or moved slowly to the mind, from body to the mind. Letting tranquility to arise. Capture the moments of little joys and happiness that arise from the freedom that you just gained. Be patient with this entire process as things are unfolding the way things are. Again, no visualizing, not stopping at any images, but your awareness to the subtlest movements of breath is still there. Cover your head with tranquility. Wrap tranquility around your body like a blanket. to settle back in the body. Take a breath with awareness and release.
This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another, or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, free from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world.
So, in the next 15 minutes, we have time to discuss the sutra for the day. I'm going to open it. It is called the Oghatarana Sutra. I shared Bhikkhu Jato's translation, and I mentioned that highlight of the sutra that the Buddha crossed the flood of suffering by neither standing nor swimming. So he didn't stand in the flood, he didn't swim in the flood, so he crossed the flood. So what does this really mean? And I shared the sutra here. Let me also open, there's a discussion link that I like to open and show you. Here you go. This is from the, you see here, linked discourses. This is how Bhikkhu Sujato loves to translate Sanyutta Nikaya. And the first chapter of Sanyutta Nikaya has uh, this sutra, the very first one, crossing the flood. Flood is Ogha, and crossing is Tarana. Tarana, uh, so the job for all of us to do is to cross this flood. And join me in reading this. Let me make the font size a little bit bigger. So I have heard at one time the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. Then, late at night, a glorious deity, lighting up the entire Jeta's Grove, went up to the Buddha, bowed, stood to one side, and said to him, "Good sir, how did you cross the flood?" This implies that she knew that the Buddha had crossed the flood. And the response here is, "Neither standing nor swimming, sir, I crossed the flood." So the Buddha gave a paradoxical answer. And then the deity asks, "But in what way did you cross the flood? Neither standing nor swimming." Then the Buddha says, "When I stood still, I went under. When I swam, I was swept away." So he just said, "When I stood still, I went under. When I swam, I was swept away. That is how I crossed the flood, neither standing nor swimming." And that is all the response is. So nothing much. And then the deity says, "After a long time, I see a Brahmin extinguished. Neither standing nor swimming, he has crossed over, clinging to the world." So crossing the flood here, as the deity has understood, is not clinging to the world. That is unbinding, that is Nibbana. This is what the deity said, and the teacher approved. Teacher here is the Buddha, and they translate that word from Saddha, the teacher. Then that deity, knowing that the teacher approved, bowed and respectfully circled the Buddha, keeping him on his right before vanishing right there. So circle 3 times before vanishing, keeping him on the right hand side. So right hand side is a way of showing respect. Someone left a note. Okay, so keeping him on his right. This is how we circumambulate any pagoda. Uh, left side, showing your left side to the pagoda is not so respectful as much, if you see people who are aware of this, they may uh, they do the circumambulations, showing your right hand side towards the pagoda, towards the Buddha statue, or towards the Buddha. Here's the analysis, and I found a highlighter, an extension to Google Chrome where you can highlight things. I did this yesterday. And the word, so you look at the blue here, the word flood, ogre, is used metaphorically, but here with technical overtones to designate a doctrinal set of 4 floods. This is mentioned in other places. If you look at 45, 171 of the same Sanyutta Nikaya, linked discourses, you will be able to find it. The so-called, according to the commentary, SPK is the commentary, Sarattapakasani is the the SPK acronym stands for Sarattapakasani. That is the name of the commentary. It says because, okay, let me not highlight any further. This is about the 4 floods. Why are they called floods? Because they keep being submerged within the round of existence and do not allow them to rise up to higher states and to Nibbana. This is why the name flood is used. So now in yellow, I have highlighted the 4 floods. The first one is the flood of sensuality, Kama Ogha. The second one is the flood of existence, Bhava Ogha. The third one, the flood of views, Ditti Ogha. The flood of ignorance, Avidya Ogha. Now, before I explain what these do to us, let's go a little further to the purple highlights. This is where you get why the Buddha answered in a certain way. The Pali here is appatittang kwahang avuso anayuhang oghang ataring. And the English translation is here in this place, not halting, not coming to stand still on account of the defilements and so forth. So, appatittang, not standing, also anayuhang, not swimming with it. Oghang ataring, I cross the flood. This is where it gets interesting. The Buddha's reply is intended to be paradoxical. So, paradoxical, there is a reason for that. This is the reason. The Blessed One deliberately gave an obscure reply to the Deva in order to humble him, for he was stiff with conceit, yet imagined himself wise. Realizing that the Deva would not be able to penetrate the teaching unless he first changed his attitude. So this Deva came with an attitude. Perhaps it was shown the way the Pali was spoken to the Buddha. That the way he spoke to the Buddha in Pali, the Buddha intended to perplex him and thereby curb his pride. At that point, humbled, the Deva would ask for clarification and the Buddha would explain in such a way that he could understand. It's like children doing, this is an Australian thing, I think it's a slang, I'm not sure whether it's a slang completely. Sometimes parents ask, what time are you coming home? And children, namya, they say that. And this confuse parents. What they really mean is that it's none of your business. This is this is a way to annoy someone or to not give a straightforward answer, but you intend something else, like ignore. But here the Buddha doesn't actually ignore, but make the deity ask a further question. Because this is that question the deity asks. But in what way did you cross the flood, neither standing nor swimming? So let's go back to these four floods. The flood of sensuality. So the meaning of that is desire and lust for the five chords of sensual pleasure, agreeable forms, sounds, and then you have smells, touches, uh, tastes, and these five forms, sounds, touches, tastes, and what else? The smells. So the flood of sensuality. This is a flood. It keeps flowing and flowing and flowing. If you stand there, you submerge. You go down with them. If you try to swim with that, you get washed away with the current. That means you get carried away into the samsara. The flood of existence is bhava. Similar to the previous one, this is bhava, the desire and lust for form, sphere existence, and formless sphere existence. So form sphere is rupa level, and formless is arupa level. And you may, in other words, material and immaterial jhanas are places where beings may be attached to. And then attachment to uh, this is slightly not the best translation, but here I have read elsewhere that people get attached to kama bhava, sensual realms, and rupa bhava, the first four jhana realms, and then arupa bhava, the four attainment realms. So these are places where you have the flood of existence. There is a flood, and you are easily caught in it if you stand in way of any of these existences. Those who have heard the Dhamma must understand what I mean by this. The first jhana is such a bliss that you may be, if you have not heard any further, that you think that is the highest level you can reach to. But fortunately, we have the knowledge of Dhamma so that we know there is a level further, and you go purifying your mind until you reach to a level of infinite space, infinite consciousness, in nothingness, neither perception nor non-perception, and not even holding on to that. Finally, experiencing cessation. The third one, Ditti Yoga, when you just did the metta meditation, you were reminded of this, that not holding to any fixed views, that yourself is eternal, that someone has to free you. When you fall into any of these views, you are not going to pay attention to any other teaching. Your ears, you don't give ear to any other teaching. There's a danger in that. So you stop listening, you stop investigating, you are not a seeker anymore. That way, true Dhamma is far away from you. That is the problem with the flood of views. There are 62 of these discussed in the Brahmajala Sutra, Brahma network, the network of the net of Brahma. Many of these belong to the past. Before the teachings of the Buddha had to refute all these 62 views and present his teachings. And then the flood of ignorance. This is lack of knowledge regarding the four truths. This is a common way that this has been translated, understood. Now, knowing that the Buddha is teaching these two lines, he teaches the suffering and the cause of suffering, happiness and the path towards happiness. This is the summarized way of teaching the four truths that are noble. He teaches suffering and the cause of suffering, and he teaches happiness and the path towards happiness. So that is, when that is understood, you are not lacking knowledge of the four truths. Here, not halting or not coming to a standstill on account of the defilements and so forth. Think of, now go back here again, neither standing nor swimming. Think about defilements here. You don't stand with defilements, you don't swim with defilements. You don't go with keles, you don't go with kilesa. You don't stand with kilesa, you don't swim with them. That is how you cross the flood. How you are, I think you are able to understand it. So, a strained mind is far from concentration. Ayuhati is rare in the Nikayas. It is an intensification of uhati. The simple verb occurs in middle length discourses, where it might be rendered to be strained. Its occurrences there ties up with the present context. A strained mind is far from concentration. In the later literature, the noun form ayuhana acquires the technical sense of accumulation, because when you have your mind flooded with things, you are not able to concentrate very well. And this stands for sankharas, the volitional thoughts, formations. So this is the function of ayuhana, that you get carried away into many places. So the Buddha's brief reply points to the middle way, Majjhima Patipada, in its most comprehensive range, both practical and philosophical. Practical, that it's talking about the floods and crossing of floods, and philosophical because it talks about these four floods and what it involves. And then, as a result, the commentary says, when the Deva heard the Buddha's reply, he was established in the fruit of stream entry. Now understand this as gradual process. You understand the self-view and you no longer hold on to self-view, and you go a little bit above, and where you no longer have any wish to return to sensual world. And that's how you do this gradual progression towards reaching to complete unbinding, which is Nibbana, freedom from bondage. Let me go a little bit down. There are two quotes here that I like to end with. One is Bhagavad Gita. In it, it says, don't be attached to action, don't be attached to inaction. Someone is trying to make a connection with Bhagavad Gita and the Buddha's teaching, because here it says, without pushing forward, without staying in place. So you stay in the middle. There's no positive assertion to the middle as well. So that is That is what this person is trying to say. Don't be attached to action, don't be attached to inaction. If you attach to any of these things, unbinding is far away from you. There's a deeper meaning, but it says that this is a pretty loose translation of what Bhagavad Gita may have intended. So, and then it says Nagarjuna's quote says, "The great way is not difficult for for those not attached to preferences." When you attach to preferences, then the great way is not difficult. Think about these quotes. I believe the great way is the Nibbana, way of Nibbana. When you have preferences, you are stuck in some place, you are stuck in one of the floods. And just now, if you think about your own life, having to look after children, having to look after your properties, this goes in many ways. If you pin it down, that is because you are in the flood of sensuality. And then if you are in jhanic experiences, either in the form sphere or formless sphere, and that you think there's no further to go, that you think that you will end suffering afterwards, that is when you have been caught up in the flood of existence. And if you have views about certain things to go a certain way and that this is the only way, there's no other ways, and if it's not conducive to final unbinding, you are caught up in the flood of views. And if you do not understand these teachings fully, especially the teachings of suffering and overcoming of suffering, happiness and path towards happiness, you are caught up in the flood of ignorance, avijja ogha. These come again and again in different teachings, in different forms, so you may as well take notes on this. And if you do want, you see, this is the, let me share the link with you in the chat box. So you have it. Not sure if my highlights will be there, but if you go in that link, you're not looking at the very top, you are looking at further down to notes. There are two places where you have notes. Not this place, but the second place where you find notes under uh, Micans, where they give the Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. I think the previous one is also, that's Bhikkhu Jnanananda's translation. So yeah, go down to Bhikkhu Bodhi's and his notes. All right, so any questions, comments before we finish for today? Okay, happy meditation. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being with us. And no updates in happy meditation.
Thank you, Bhante.
You are very welcome.